To be bounced from the job. Peter Alexander is at the White House with more tonight.
President Trump dropping the bombshell on Twitter, saying about his national security advisor, "I informed John Bolton last night that his services are no longer needed at the White House. I disagreed strongly with many of his suggestions, and therefore I asked John for his resignation, which was given to me this morning." The surprise announcement just an hour before this briefing that the White House earlier said Bolton would attend. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who repeatedly clashed with Bolton, insisting he was not blindsided. Was it news to you today?
I'm never surprised. We work very closely with the President of the United States. I think we have a pretty good understanding of how he's thinking about things.
But Bolton, seen here outside the West Wing this morning, later texting me that he was not fired. "I offered to resign last night. He never asked for it, directly or indirectly. I slept on it and resigned this morning." The chaos capping off Bolton's tumultuous 17-month tenure.
They should listen to the president.
The president who campaigned on ending wars, often joking about having a hawkish national security advisor.
I actually temper John, which is pretty amazing, isn't it? Nobody thought that was going to happen. I'm the one that tempers him, but that's okay.
Still, their disagreements have been piling up, including the president's visit with Kim Jong-un at the DMZ, a meeting Bolton opposed. The planned strike on Iran in retaliation for a downed U.S. drone. Bolton lobbied for it. President Trump called it off.
I didn't like it. I didn't think it was proportionate.
And just days ago, the president and Bolton disagreeing over Mr. Trump's plan to hold Afghanistan peace talks with the Taliban at Camp David.
It was my idea, and it was my idea to terminate it. I didn't discuss it with anybody else.
President Trump now looking for a fourth national security advisor in less than 3 years. The first he fired, Michael Flynn, in court today for lying to the FBI. Now another shakeup at a critical time.
When the president makes a decision like this, he's well within his rights to do so.
All of this happening at a crucial moment, with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo telling me today that he could foresee a meeting between President Trump and Iran's leader later this month without preconditions. Lester?
All right, Peter Alexander at the White House, thanks. There is growing alarm this evening of the crisis involving e-cigarettes. A sixth death tied to vaping was reported today, with 480 confirmed or suspected cases of vaping-related illnesses in 38 states.
This gorgeous luminosity.
Looks like ABC's been taken off the air for some reason. Here it is.
Started
Tonight from the White House. Terry, thank you. We're going to turn now to the alarming news on vaping tonight, right here.
officials in Houston today confirmed
the details of Purdue Pharma's proposed settlement are the clearest sign its owners are ready to pay up to settle the more than 2,000 lawsuits accusing the drug maker of fueling the opioid crisis. CBS News has learned that members of the Sackler family who own Purdue are willing to give up ownership of the company and pay an additional $3 billion to $4.5 billion from their personal wealth. Over 2 decades, while the sale of the painkiller OxyContin generated billions of dollars in profits for the drug maker, the nation's opioid addiction was reaching a crisis. According to the CDC, overdose deaths linked to prescription opioids have killed more than 218,000 Americans since the late 1990s.
Now I want to stop right there. We've got all these people pertaining to Homeland Security, U.S. Marshals, FBI, what is it, something like 27 different agencies, or 17 different agencies or something like that. But anyways, we've got all these people that we've been paying to protect us, and it's only up until now, from 1990 to 2019, that we're just now discovering, going to the core of origin of where a lot of this problem originated from. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Between this, pharmaceutical communities, and between the illegal trade towards what's coming in through the mail from China, and other parts of the world, and also what's being smuggled in over the southern border. I don't know, some of it may be coming over the northern border too as well. But it has crippled this nation. How can anybody in their right mind say that our politicians that are still in power today, that was in power during the early 1990s, or even the 2000, that's been in power now for 20, 25, 30 years, any politician whatsoever, I don't care if it's a lieutenant governor, a governor, a state representative, a judge, a county judge, a state judge, a federal judge, how can any politician even look the general public in the eye and say, oh, we've done a great job, such as the people here in Weakley County that I know Mike Wilson has been in power now for 33 or 34 years. How can any of these people, regardless whether it be here in Weakley County, Tennessee, Obion County, Tennessee, or throughout the nation, look at the general public and say, we've done an excellent job towards protecting you and taking care of you, whenever we've got all these sicknesses and illnesses, all these suicides, all these mass shootings, 2.3 million incarcerated prisoners in jail, and $20.5 trillion in debt. And I could go on and on and on with problems towards our road structure and our infrastructure, as far as our bridges. How can any of these people look at the general public in the eye and say, we've done a marvelous job? Oh, you've done a marvelous job, all right, towards not governing and protecting the people. And now we have got what we have got, which is nothing more than chaos. Chaos in our government, chaos in our schools, chaos in our churches, chaos on our international front, chaos. And they don't like me because I tell the truth?
Tony LaGreca's son Matthew died in 2014 after a long struggle with prescription opioids. He says his addiction started with a single bottle of Purdue Pharma's OxyContin to treat a football injury.
It seems that the Sackler family, that Purdue Pharma now may be willing to pay up.
Well, they're offering a certain amount of money, and first of all, the amount of money is way too small. There's still...
Not only is the amount of money way too small,
addiction.
Not only is the amount of money way too small, but the amount of cases is way too small. I know 7, 8, 10 different people that has died a young deaths that I know was associated with drug abuse or drug addiction. And we're talking about people that was young, that threw their lives away, that got addicted to these type of narcotic or opioids.
And that addiction has come from the initial prescription from opioids.
Well, meanwhile, the threat of bankruptcy looms. A source close to the negotiations says there is no specific timing for a potential filing, but CBS News has...
These people should go to jail. These people shouldn't have the right to file bankruptcy. It's one thing if it's a natural catastrophe pertaining to a hurricane, a tornado, a bad fire, a bad flood that causes a business, an industry to file bankruptcy. But this is self-induced. These people need to be held accountable in the eyes of the law pertaining to a crime. There are crimes that has been committed associated with people's debts. Money can't pay for people's lives. Money can't pay for personalities. Money can't pay for someone who someone loves and cares dearly about. You can put all the money on the table that you have, but you're not going to bring that person back. And we call this justice. And these people are riddled towards decisions of whether or not they're going to file for bankruptcy. Once more, they throw it on the backs of the American people for the American people to fit the bill. I have never seen so much injustice in my entire life than what I'm seeing today in 2019.
Deadline of tomorrow to accept the terms of the deal, Nora, or the pharmaceutical giant will file for bankruptcy.
Wow, Mola, thank you. And we're learning.
Let's listen to this one more time because I cut you off. I want you to listen to this.
The threat of...
Because basically what it is, they're holding the government hostage in reality towards you either do it this way or we're going to cut a trail and nobody gets any type of satisfaction out of all these problems and all these debts here in America. These people should go to jail.
Bankruptcy looms. A source close to the negotiation says there is no specific timing for a potential filing, but CBS News has learned that Purdue has given plaintiffs a deadline of tomorrow to accept the terms of the deal, Nora, or the pharmaceutical giant will file for bankruptcy.
Wow, Mola, thank you. And we're learning more tonight about a serious situation outside St. Louis. A freight train loaded with a flammable liquid derailed and caught fire today in Dupo, Illinois. Nearby schools and...
Now think about this. Is that not blackmail whenever you tell a government that it's either my way or the highway in regard to the drug addiction problem that has now surfaced here in America? Is that not a form of holding people hostage in a sense that we're not going to pay you nothing if you don't agree to our terms and agree to our policies? I thought it was the government and law enforcement that was in control of people, these self-appointed people's companies that are bringing harm or hurt. I guarantee you, if it was some sort of problem with airbags, with cars, they would have to pull every car off of the road immediately. If it had something to do with baby fixtures or a baby carrier or something to do with a baby carrier car that you put in a car and strap, it would just be immediate towards what the government would demand. Not for the car manufacturers to hold the government hostage towards this is what we're going to do. No, it don't work that way. It's supposed to be the other way around. It's supposed to be law enforcement pertaining to the government that's in control, regardless whether it's car manufacturers, baby makers, people producing food, anything that's unsafe to the general public. That's whenever law enforcement is supposed to step in. And we have waited now for, 29 years, almost 30 years, since 1990? 1990, 2000, this is 2019, you do the math. It's unbelievable how much stuff that has sifted through the cracks that the American people, which are the government, has been lax in. It's really sad.
Deadline of tomorrow to
I don't even want to hear no more of it.
Lead to death. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor.
Action for your vehicle with laser.
I don't want to hear no more hypocrisy pertaining to how the big industries continue to get away with basically murder. If these people does not, if that company is not shut down and people does not go to jail, that means that these people got away with murder. That's the same thing as saying it's okay for the jihad, the Taliban, or ISIL to do what they done during 9/11 towards killing over 3,000 people, oh, it's okay. No, it's not okay. You brought harm and hurt into our lives. It's not okay. You deceived us. You tricked us. You hurt us. It's not okay.
Liners and cargo trunk line.
Sad. So sad.
With counseling and using the nicotine patch and gum.
Oh, man.
Give it a try during the Local 6 Paducah Sun Big Boy Toy Expo, September 20th and 21st at Paducah's Expo Center.
People still hadn't figured out that tobacco kills people.
The family outrage after a 9-year-old boy was lunch shamed by his school on a day he should have been celebrating. NBC's Stephanie Gosk and how his story led to a major change for the district.
Jefferson Sharpnack just started going to Green Primary School in Ohio. Last Tuesday was his 9th birthday. On the cafeteria menu that day, his favorite, cheesy breadsticks. But Jefferson wouldn't get any.
They took my lunch because I didn't have enough money. They took my main thing, which was cheesy breadstick sauce. They replaced it with a cheese sandwich.
Now this little boy had a birthday. How many people has birthdays that want to be recognized for your birthday? Especially if you're a little kid. He was punished because his parents didn't have the money to properly fund that meal for that day. So because his parents couldn't come up with the money, the school punishes the little boy by not giving him his favorite treat, which was breadsticks or pizza or whatever it was. But yet now, we'll let a big corporation, a conglomerate, basically get away with murder. When has the American people, rich, poor, educated, non-educated, white, black, green, or yellow, when has the American people sat back and allowed for such injusticeness to happen to our motherland, to our very own people? It has reached a point that it is sickening for me to watch the news, especially whenever I see what I've seen that occurred pertaining to a top official right in there with Donald Trump that was tolling of the fact that they was going to negotiate with the Taliban. That's almost like waving a white flag and saying, oh, we're going to join your alliance, or we're going to allow for you to join up with our alliance. You talk about insanity. It doesn't get much more insane than that, of even meditating upon the ideal of going to side with your enemy. The very person that has caused so much harm and hurt to the American people's lives since 9/11, which is 18 years ago. If you'll compile that with this, and this, with that, and that, with this, it puts us where we are right now. And just like I heard some commentators talking this afternoon, whenever it comes to Donald Trump achieving stuff on an international front, he actually gets a great big F. Whenever it comes to him making strides in the right direction with other international affairs. And it's reached a point with the farming community and everything else that people are beginning to wonder, hey, is this really in the direction that we want to go in for the next 4 more years of presidency, towards looking at how things has already deteriorated, in which there's no doubt there's some things that Donald Trump has done for this country has been good towards bringing awareness to this, bringing awareness to that, trying to get this done, trying to get that done, just like the drug problem, you know, of the border crisis. There's lots of things that he's done directly for we the people that we can't deny has been a good thing, pertaining to the economy and et cetera, et cetera. But whenever it comes to making international decisions with France, China, siding with people that we know are nothing more than thugs, murderers, we have to start scratching our heads and wondering, is this really the path that we want to take in the next 4 years from now? And once more, I don't want to put down the chief and commander, because he is the chief and commander. But you know what? My grandmother always said that if it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, walks like a duck, odds are it's a duck. And the people need to be awakened that some of the decisions that is going on in the White House right now is only adding fuel to the fire towards, instead of being a solution to the problem, is actually becoming the problem. Now, if I'm going to be punished for telling the truth, well then, so be it. I get punished for telling the truth. But the bottom line is this. This little boy that we're seeing the mother thereof should not have had to have done without his favorite meal on his birthday, simply because the mother could not afford to be out the funds. Listen.
Mother, who is raising 4 kids, owed a little less than $10 in lunch fees.
Who takes food from a little boy and throws it away and gives him a piece of cheese.
She said she told the school the day before that she would send a check.
I was embarrassed for me, and I said to them, he didn't owe you anything, I did. He's 9, how can he owe you something?
The school district changed its policy. Now every child will get the same lunch. The principal stopped by to apologize.
She said she was terribly sorry, and they had spoke to the school cafeteria staff.
75% of school districts nationwide reported student meal debt in 2018. The amount of debt ballooning 70% since 2012. These lunch shaming stories keep popping up, from Rhode Island to Pennsylvania to New Jersey. As for Jefferson's birthday, the 9-year-old says it was the worst one ever. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
But yet now we'll let a conglomerate tell us what to do and how to do it. That would be like us allowing for the Taliban or ISIS or the Jihad or other known terrorist or radical groups in telling us how to run our business and how we're going to deal with problems over here across the pond. The sign tells it all. Be kind. One other thing, in addition, that I want to add of being kind. And I think this is the part that has disoriented or has troubled ministers, preachers, rabbis, Bible scholars. For some reason, people have gotten it confused whenever Christ taught us to love thy enemies. He wasn't implying to love what your enemies are doing to you. He was not implying to love how your enemies was abusing you or taking advantage of you or victimizing you. That is one of the reasons why, another reason why, that the American government has been put in shambles, because so many people has misinterpreted the Bible in thinking that just because the Bible says to love thy enemies, that means you're supposed to love what your enemy has done to you. And there's nowhere in the Bible where it says that you're supposed to love what your enemy has done to you. You still love his soul or her soul, even at the expense of you having to execute somebody. Let's say that you work for the state and that was your job, that you had to actually execute people either by lethal injection or by gas chamber or by the electric chair, in which I don't even know if the electric chair is even still legal in America or not. I kind of doubt if it is. But let's say that was your job. You have to identify, and let's say that was your job and you as a Christian, a true Christian. You have to identify that whatever that person has done, he or she, does not fit under the guidelines towards loving thy enemies affairs towards either what he or she has done. Yeah, you can still love your enemy as far as their actual soul. And there's a possibility after that person gets sentenced to death that he or she will reform before they actually take their last breath. But the fact of the matter is, God's laws does not contradict of man's laws. And for some reason, especially the Germans, especially the Mennonites, the people that refuses to be patriotic towards taking up arms and going to battle. I think the Jehovah's Witness also fits under this same pretense, is that they think that because God's Son said that you're to love thy enemies, that you're also supposed to love what your enemy has done to you. That's as far from being biblical and scriptural as the Bible teaches. Originally, it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth pertaining to the Judeo, the old Jewish law, the law of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it wasn't until Christ come to identify of people's souls that even though they had committed a bad act in the eyes of God pertaining to their soul, their spiritual soul, their identity within, that God would still forgive that person, that there is no big sins or little sins in the eyes of God, spiritually speaking, supernaturally speaking. That still does not dismiss what the actions are. There's nowhere in the Bible that says that you are to love where somebody has abused you, where somebody has raped you, where somebody has neglected you, where somebody has abused you, where somebody has bullied you, where somebody has hurt you. There's nowhere in the Bible where it says that you are to love that person's actions. You can still love the person and not love the actions. Kind of like what the Taliban and ISIS, the Jihad, and all those other extremists over there in the Middle East have been doing now for years and years and years. Yeah, we love them, but we don't love what they're doing and how that they're doing it. That's the reason why it requires an iron fist. That's the reason why iron sharpens iron, so that they can become perfected. And still to this day, they have not become perfected. I just want to say that in regard to the little boy, because I have a great deal of empathy and sympathy for children, especially those who get bullied and taken advantage of on a day-to-day level. Once more, it was not this child's fault that his parents, mother or father, could not properly fit the bill on the lunch tally. The principal apologized, realizing that they had made a mistake. We're all going through this thing to perfect, to make ourselves better, to make our quality better, to make our lives better, to make each other better. We must pay attention towards the signs, especially those that spell it out right in front of us, to be kind. Thank you for listening, and shalom. See ya.